That got lost. Yes, sir.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for hosting this for us. For me, my first exposure to WASP was live in raw. 8th grade gym class, somebody just took a tape of it. And shortly after, or a year later, The Headless Children came out, and The Real Me was all over MTV. And I just loved that song. And I just wanted to know what the connection was with that song, why you picked that, why that was like the leading song.
There were 4 songs that we were looking at. 3 of them were Who songs. The one was Behind Blue Eyes. Another one, Punk versus the Godfather from Quadrophenia, and The Real Me. And so we were supposed to start rehearsing all of them. And I got to rehearsal, and I was the last one there. Everybody was already up on stage playing. And I walked in the room, and it was a big room. I mean, it was probably the length of this corridor, but the same width wide. And so when I walked in, I was kind of in the shadows, and they didn't know I was standing there. And I just stopped, and this thing was coming off of the stage. I got Chris Holmes up there playing guitar, Johnny Rod playing bass, Frankie Benelli playing drums, Ken Hensley playing keyboards. And they were working up The Real Me. And I listened to this freight train coming off the stage. There were no vocals. Didn't need any vocals. I mean, it was awesome. And I stood there and I thought, there is no need to work on any of those other songs. This is it. You know, so that's really what it ended up being. We never even tried rehearsing any of the other songs.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
So this is something that both my dad and I have a question for you for, is like, so for your first albums, or at least for the self-titled too, you seem to have more of like that sexual, seductive aspect of the music, right? But then you get on to more of the album like Headless Children, and there's more of a political view to that album. So what would you say was the reason why you changed to that type
You
of...
grow and you change.
Really?
Yeah, sure, everybody does. I mean, lyrics end up becoming like a diary.
Okay.
So if you look back at who you were 5 years before that, you're not the same person. And you got to remember too that we had toured for years at that point, and we had seen things. We had seen a lot of cool stuff, but we had seen things you could not unsee either. We had been to places that weren't pleasant. And you go to some really disenfranchised places in the world. Americans are spoiled. I can say that because I'm one of you, so I know. But we don't understand what we have in this country. I've often said that every American should be required to do 2 things. Number 1, go to Gettysburg. Second, go to Russia and see what's really going on. All the bullshit you see on TV would cease here immediately if people could see with their own eyes what's going on in these places. So specifically to your question, I came home, but before I came home, and we had been on the road for 3 years. We'd done a record, a tour, and a record, and a tour. Got home in '87, but before I got home, I was in New York and I did an interview with the editor from Hit Parader magazine, and I was burnt. And I wasn't trying to do any of my showbiz shtick or any of that stuff. I was venting. You know, whatever I saw on TV I didn't like, whatever politics, anything, you know, I was just venting. And he calls up my manager, Rod, and he goes, I don't know what's the matter with him. You know, he's going off. You know, he didn't give me anything to print. Well, they finally print the article, and about 6 weeks after it comes out, he calls me up. And he says, we've received more mail from this article than any other we've ever had in this magazine. Because I'm going to send you a sample of some of the letters. So he sent me about 100 letters, and I looked at them, and they were all saying the same thing. You know, what took you so long to say this? We knew this was you. Have you ever been in a situation where you were thinking something about yourself, but it took a friend of yours to say it to you to kind of push you right off the edge? Well, that was that arc moment for me.
Okay.
And I said, that's it. So we did the early demos, and Capitol heard the early demos, and they said, this is not the record you should be making. You should be making, you know, I Want to Be Somebody Part 2 or whatever. And I said, I'm not that person anymore. I can't do that anymore. And they were moaning and complaining, and the record finally came out, and it went gold a week later. And so they shut up. But the same thing happened again when we did the next record with the Idol. They heard that and they think, well, you know, you should be doing Headless Part 2. And it's like, you learn Shakespeare, to thine own self be true. Yes, sir.